estimated crowd of 45,000 here at Croke Park in Dublin under the lights to cheer on Navy and Notre Dame. From the 5, Hollis rolling left. He's got a man wide open. Kriplevich, the tight end, touchdown.
With you live from Dublin in Aviva Stadium. Touchdown Notre Dame, Theo Riddick.
Well, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm Mike Tirico from NBC Sports. Privileged to be here on what's really an exciting day for a lot of us with this announcement that maybe you heard about last night, but we can share it with the principals here, and we'll be taking questions for them after some opening remarks in just a moment. But needless to say, as you probably know, Dublin 2023, an August trip is in the offing. Great summer vacation for many, as Navy and Notre Dame will continue one of the great intersectional rivalries in the history of college football. We'll continue it at Aviva Stadium in Dublin. As you've seen, been to Ireland a couple of times for this rivalry, including Aviva Stadium back in 2012, and 11 years later, what a great opportunity in 2023. And on our behalf, on my personal behalf, for our company at NBC, we're thrilled that a Notre Dame home game will be part of the experience of the Irish playing in Ireland, because the game will be on NBC. Our network's had a lot of history. The first to broadcast a Rose Bowl on the radio, first to broadcast a college football game in the U.S. This package now in its 31st year, and a tremendous association for our company with Notre Dame football over the years on NBC. And in that 33rd year, it'll be really special as we, for the first time, broadcast a college football game overseas. It's never happened in the long history of NBC. We are privileged to do that. I'll introduce the principals who will be speaking to this, and then we'll field your questions. Of course, University Vice President and James E. Rohr, Director of Athletics at Notre Dame, Jack Swarbrick, who is so instrumental in all of these exciting adventures for Notre Dame football and football fans over the years, and Kevin Byrne, who is the Consul General for Ireland in the Midwest. I was just joking with Kevin. His home is Dublin and Chicago, so you get to mix two places close to home in one special opportunity with Notre Dame coming over there. So without further ado, I'll turn the microphone over to Jack for some opening comments. Jack?
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. I assume that video was edited by Ron Paulus, since it opened with him throwing a touchdown pass on a previous visit to Ireland. Thank you all for being here today. We are thrilled to make this announcement. I did not appreciate when we started down this road how much more challenging it was to relocate a home game than it was to be the visitor on a trip like this. And I have so many people to thank who helped make a more complicated situation possible. It starts with our friends at NBC, who were willing to take this broadcast, and originated from Ireland and all the complications that presents from them. But from the start, they were great partners who encouraged us to do it. Neil Nocton is with us today, co-chair of the steering committee, who has been so instrumental in putting it all together. None of this would have happened without John Anthony of On Location, whose patience with me and diligence in the process helped get us to a final deal today. Of course, our partners at Navy, who were more than willing to help us get this done and allow us to move our home game to Ireland. So, and all the people at the university, in the administration, our Alumni Association, university events, Father John and his staff, who all helped make it possible. We'd be excited to present this opportunity to our student athletes under any circumstance, because we love giving them different experiences as part of their time at Notre Dame. But this falls in line with two important parts of our mission. The first is to help Notre Dame be more international, to use athletics and football in particular to spread Notre Dame, its message and its identity around the world. And this is part of that. And we've seen how effectively it worked in prior years, and I know it will again. But it's also part of our independence, our decision to be independent in football when you make that decision, when you maintain that status, you have to use it. You have to take advantage of it, or you shouldn't be independent. And this is a key part of it. We'll be in 5 of the 10 largest U.S. cities in the next several years. We'll go internationally. We want to use football, as Jesse Harper used it when he set the template for us, to spread the word of Notre Dame and to help build the Notre Dame brand. And there's no better place to do it than in Ireland, with so many of our friends who have been so supportive of this university over time and who've helped us establish a number of programs over there. So we are thrilled.
Thank you, Jack, and congratulations on another milestone in your tremendous leadership of not just the football program, but the entire athletics department here at Notre Dame. Kevin, you can brag about your country and this great opportunity to welcome the Irish to Ireland.
Thanks so much, and thanks, Mike, thanks, Jack. I just want to say that Ireland is so excited to host the energy and the passion and the sportsmanship of Notre Dame and Navy in Dublin in 2023. We know that tens of thousands of fans were disappointed that they couldn't travel in 2020 because of the pandemic, and we're so grateful to Jack here at Notre Dame and to Chet in Navy for working so hard to make this happen. In Ireland, we like to think of ourselves as the land of Céad Míle Fáilte, of 100,000 welcomes. And Jack, and to everyone in Notre Dame, I can assure you we'll roll out every single one of those 100,000 welcomes in 2023. This game is the second game in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic series, which will see a college football game take place in Dublin every year for the next 5 years. And we really want fans to think of Ireland as the home of college football in Europe, because Dublin and Notre Dame and Navy know this from 2012. Dublin doesn't just host a game. Dublin is going to embrace the game and embrace the fans and all their energy. We're a city, we're a country that loves sport, and we're really ready to welcome everybody over. Our Taoiseach, our Prime Minister, the government, Aer Lingus, and everybody in Tourism Ireland is really ready to roll out the green carpet. And we really hope that when folks come to watch the best football in the world, that they'll take a little bit of time and play on the best golf courses in the world, to go and see some of the most beautiful scenery in the world, to maybe have a drink or two in the best pubs in the world. And I do want to say we recognise just how historic it is that this is Notre Dame's first home game overseas. But we in Ireland like to think if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're coming to Ireland, you're coming home. And if you're at Notre Dame and you're playing in Ireland, that you're playing on home turf. We'd like to think ancestral home turf. So we're really looking forward to it. Go Irish. Thank you.
Exciting times. We in television get to arrive on Thursday before the games. I'd like to pitch my bosses right now. A Monday arrival, I think, would be very important to make sure that we can fully explain to the audience what Kevin's been talking about the hospitality of your great country, which we visited several times. So we look forward to that.
Any chance that'll involve your golf clubs?
It might, Jack, it might. UND.com online, UND.com, the normal site for Notre Dame athletics, and also a special site, ND2 Ireland.com, ND2 Ireland.com. For information about the trip and the game and all the things that will be coming up between now and August 26th of 2023, when we look forward to the Irish against Navy in Dublin. Why don't we open it up to questions at this time? There are 2 representatives of the communication staff passing around microphones, so just raise your hand and we will tick them off in order here for the next 8 or 9 minutes or so. Go ahead.
Jack, this is the first time you've given up a home game in Notre Dame Stadium. What were some of the things that you weighed in making that decision?
Well, we obviously have a tradition of doing it with the Shamrock Series games, and they have been very successful. And while this doesn't exactly fit that model, it gave us confidence that we could take a home game and move it to another site and still ensure that it met the expectations of our fans. They're going to be able to travel there. They're going to be able to attend the game. We have our broadcast partner making sure that it's broadcast nationally here in the U.S. So all those elements that are critical to the fans that sort of mirror the typical Shamrock experience, we became comfortable we could accomplish them here.
And you mentioned how much more difficult it is as a home game. Logistically, what are some of the logistics that you're going to be dealing with here in the next 2 years in preparation?
Well, it's less so the travel logistics, which are complicated, but we do have some great experience doing it, as it was sort of putting it together and making it work, frankly, making it work because you've got to replicate or you have to replace all of the business elements of a home game in terms of revenue and sponsor opportunities, et cetera. And just bringing the details together with the overall schedule for the year. How does it fit in? It had to be the first game of the year, so Navy had to agree to move the game. We didn't want to do it in the middle of the season. So it's those sorts of complications.
So you need almost 2 full years of preparation for this.
We've been working on it about 18 months, and now the 2 years leading up to it, so yeah.
I've suggested site surveys too, by the way. If I could just ask you, I'm usually on that side of this event. If you could just give your name and organization as you ask questions, please go ahead.
Mr. Byrne, Len Clark, Dublin City FM. With the positive rapport with Notre Dame and with Guinness relocating to Chicago in the near future, what is the vision for future cultural activities and commerce in this area?
Thanks. That's a great question. Well, Ireland and the US share such a strong relationship anyway. We've got ties of history and heritage. And you mentioned some of the really positive partnerships that are happening as we go forward. Obviously, the Notre Dame game is key, and it's core to ensure that people get a chance to see Ireland, to really feel it, to experience the excitement that we have for Notre Dame to be coming over. But on top of that, there's just a whole series of engagements that we have planned for the Midwest in particular. So next year is actually the 100th anniversary of the Irish state. It's also the 100th anniversary of James Joyce's Ulysses, and we've got a whole series of engagements right throughout the Midwest that people will have a chance to feel Ireland closer to home before they get over for the game in 2023. Thank you.
Next question.
Pete Sampson from The Elect. Jack, was week 0 essential in this? Was it essentially a non-starter if you're going to have to replicate 2012 where you play a game 7 days after playing in Ireland?
Yes. We maybe underestimated the challenge of coming back and playing, and so getting to week 0 was very important to us. And there's still a waiver process involved, but we have every assurance we're going to be fine with that. But it was critical to getting it done.
And is this something that you could see replicated down the road with Navy? You know, a different international game down the road. I know it's something that's sort of been kicked around in the past, but do you think this sort of opened the door for this for future opportunities?
Well, I sure hope there are other future opportunities to travel internationally. As you know, we've lined up first games now going out for several years, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Alabama, et cetera, that probably have to stay in their locations. So we may have limited opportunities, but we sure want to do it.
Thanks. Next question.
Mr. Byrne, Chuck Freeby from WNDU, WHME TV. Why is American football so important to come to Ireland, and how have you seen the growth of that particular sport in your country and in Europe in general?
Thanks, Chuck. It's a great question. So why is it important for it to come to Ireland? For those that have been to Ireland before, they'll know that for us, sport isn't just about the game. It's about the community around the game. It's about everything that happens in the run-up to the game, the fact that families go, that it brings friends together. And for us, that's something that we really see, particularly in college football, the chance to bring everyone together and to really celebrate, you know, not just sport, but the friendships that sport helps to engender. So that's, I suppose, been important on the community side. On the sporting side itself, you know, we don't play, well, there are a few teams that play football in Ireland, and it would have been folks that would have lived or traveled over here, but a lot of folks would watch college football in the evenings, very late at night when they're broadcast, and it's really started to gain a following in Ireland. So I think the opportunity for Irish folks back home to see, you know, the best team in college football play is something that's really, really special to us as well. And I think as well, the fact that this is a 5-game series as well, it gives people a chance to really start to build up their knowledge of the game and yeah, just the joy of the game.
And what do you measure as the economic impact for Ireland from an event like this?
Yeah, so the economic impact is, you know, it's a serious impact, which is why our government has been so supportive of it. So we know that when folks come over for the game, they don't just come over to stay for 1 or 2 days. You know, Ireland is a place that I like to think most folks want to visit at least once in their lifetime. So folks will come over, they'll spend maybe a week, 10 days, and really get a chance to travel around the country and I hope that they do get a chance to travel around the country. But we're talking into the over 100 million should be the economic benefit to Ireland as well. But it's more than just the economics; it's the connections that we get to build from this game.
Jack, as a flip to that, do you consider the economic impact on this area when you go to move a game like this?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big factor for us. And, while we're trying to balance our obligation to the university to extend Notre Dame nationally and internationally with our obligation to the local community to bring people here for home games and fill hotels and restaurants and bars. So we're very conscious of it. We try and balance it. With 7 home games, typically, we feel we have the opportunity to do that. So, if we have 6 really good home games and 1 that we take to Las Vegas next year or Ireland in this year, we think it's the right balance.
Next question here in the middle.
Fergal Blaney from the Irish Daily Mirror. 2 questions, if I may, for Mr. Swarbrick and Mr. Byrne. First of all, Jack, you've talked just a minute ago about plans to travel overseas again. Would you perhaps like to make Dublin, would you be happy to make Dublin and Ireland a regular stop on them overseas visits, kind of like a home overseas? And just Kevin as well, you're here on behalf of the Irish government and you've talked of the economic benefit of €100 million. So will the Irish government be supporting this series with resources and with finances and funding, and where are we at that so far?
Well, we've done it 3 times and it's been in Ireland, so it's a pretty good indicator of how well it works there, but just the fondness we feel for the place. My last name may be Swarbrick, but the other 3 family names are Comey, O'Brien, and McGuinness. And I personally am thrilled to be able to go back and contribute to the economic impact with the Swarbrick family. But yeah, it's a special place, and it's not limited to football. There may be opportunities to do other sporting events for us. Our golf teams travel over there, for example, as they're allowed to under NCAA rules every 4 years. And we look for opportunities because of the great partnership, the great programs, and the great friends we have there.
Thanks. I'd like to answer Jack's question as well and say we're happy to have you back whenever you come. So please. And then just in terms of the government support for it, so the government has been supportive of it. There's a whole committee working with Aer Lingus, with Neil Naughton and others to ensure that we can bring these games over and show Ireland not just the joy and love of the sport, but we're conscious that the tourism industry in Ireland has had a difficult time over recent years. And one of the things we're really excited about is when folks come over for the game, they'll get to see Dublin, experience the joy and passion of Dublin and the game there, but also get to travel around and see some of the small towns and villages. I've heard golf mentioned more than a couple of times. We've got a third of the world's real links courses in Ireland, so that folks will really get a chance to travel around. So yeah, the government has been supportive of it.
I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Jack, it's easy to see what the Irish government gets out of, having you guys over, the economic impact and so on. But can you just expand for me just specifically on what Notre Dame is trying to achieve by moving the game? I mean, it's a big undertaking. You're giving up a home game. Is it to build a brand in Ireland, or is it to sort of buttress the Irish cultural links over here? Where does the benefit land for you guys?
Well, the first is to reinforce the programs we already have over there. We have a gateway program. We have a number of initiatives and programs that are a permanent presence in Ireland. So in a sense, we're bringing a game to those people who are already part of the university, much as we do when we host a game here. So that's part of it. Part of it is extending the brand, not just in Ireland, but in Europe. And Ireland's a great port for that, right? And a lot of our fans will spend 2 days in London before they go, or some time in Paris before they spend time in Ireland. So it is the Notre Dame presence internationally, generally. But it's also it reinforces our distinctiveness in college football, that we are able to do things like this because of the flexibility and that independence affords us, and also the importance we place on it.
And one last question, if anyone has one. Yes, sir. Your name and organization, please.
Patrick Engel with Blue and Gold Illustrated. Jack, you kind of hinted at it at the beginning, but I wanted to see if you could expand on it more. How quickly after you realized last year it wasn't going to happen did you try to put this in motion, and I guess to push for it to happen as soon as it did, as opposed to late 2020s or something?
Pretty much immediately. I mean, when, as we sort of understood all the consequences of last year and various elements of our schedule. we were focused on making sure the key elements of that could be recaptured, picking up the series that we already had in place. But this was an important part of it. We were looking forward to it. We had told prospective student athletes we'd be doing it. So trying to figure out how we could get it done was very important.
Well, thank you for the questions, and Kevin and Jack, thanks for your time. And Jack, from our perspective, speaking on behalf of Pete Bavacqua, the chairman of NBC Sports, and the rest of our NBC family, we're always appreciative of the Notre Dame relationship, the many tentacles to it, whether it's students who work on our broadcast with us, classes we get the opportunity to speak to, the opportunity with the Toledo game with Peacock to continue to push the limits and boundaries of where the sport is going and where our media is going. And for us, this is just a natural extension. It'll be a great summer in Europe for those of us at NBC Sports. We have the Ryder Cup and the Open Championship in Europe, so that's where my summer will be spent in 2023, so I look forward to that. Kevin, thank you. Jack, thank you. I know there'll be a photo opportunity coming out on the field here momentarily, so for those who need that, Aaron will lead that. But thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you not just tomorrow here at the stadium, but of course in a couple of years in Dublin for the opener with Navy and Notre Dame. Thank you. Have a good day.